Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into an absolutely epic journey through time to uncover the sweeping history of the Kaaba. We're going to trace the ancient origins of a structure that stands at the very heart of the Islamic faith. And hey, just a quick note before we jump in. To respect the profound traditions of divine iconism and sacred imagery within this history, you'll notice that throughout this explainer, our visuals will focus entirely on the awe-inspiring landscapes, historically texts, and the sacred architecture itself. So we won't be showing any human faces or personifications of the divine here. Honestly, it's really the perfect way to visualize this pure, unyielding story of faith. All right, let's get right into it. Close your eyes for a second and just picture this. A totally barren, silent valley. I mean, we're talking absolutely zero water, no shade anywhere, no signs of life whatsoever. Just vast, empty desert. And this is exactly where our story truly begins. A father, Prophet Ibrahim, brings his wife Hajar and their infant son Ismail into this massive, desolate expanse in the Arabian desert. And then he leaves them there. He leaves them with nothing but a tiny skin of water and a small bag of dates. Putting his absolute, total trust in God, he just turns and walks away. I mean, it is an act of submission so incredibly profound that it literally defies human logic, doesn't it? But here is where it gets absolutely mind-blowing. From that terrifying, absolute emptiness, we flash forward to today. Over 2 million Muslims travel to that exact same spot every single year for the Hajj pilgrimage. And that's not even counting the millions more who visit year-round for Umrah. They're all circling the cube-shaped house right there in the center of that once empty valley and reaching out to touch a black stone set into its corner. So the big question is, how? How in the world did we get from a lifeless desert to the spiritual epicenter for over 1 billion people? Section 1. An empty, silent valley. Okay, let's dive into this and unpack how this incredible transformation actually took place, starting right at the origins of the man who first walked into that valley. To really wrap our heads around this, we're going to follow a massive, sweeping historical timeline today. We'll kick things off over 4 millennia ago. Yeah, 2000 plus BCE, in the time of Prophet Ibrahim. From there, we'll move through the pre-Islamic era, when the Kaaba required a critical, dangerous rebuilding. Then we'll witness the pivotal role of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in the 600 CE. And finally, we'll tie all of these ancient threads directly to the modern pilgrimage happening right now. You know, to truly understand the valley, we've got to understand the man himself. Ibrahim is known in the Quran as Khalilullah, which literally translates to the close friend of God. Now, he lived in an era that was totally dominated by idol worship. Everybody was doing it. Yet he stood completely alone in his pure monotheism. He famously went so far as to break his people's idols, directly challenging them, asking why on earth they worshipped things that couldn't even hear or see. And for taking that stand, he was thrown into a massive, blazing fire. But miraculously, God commanded the fire to be cool and safe for him, and he walked out completely untouched. That unwavering, absolute submission to the one God, well, that's the absolute foundation for everything he did next. And what's incredible is that the same profound faith was completely mirrored by his wife, Hajar. Think back to that intense moment when Ibrahim was walking away from her and their baby in that desolate valley. Sahih al-Bukhari records this powerful moment where she actually runs after him, practically pleading for an explanation. Why are you leaving us? And when he remains totally silent, she finally asks him the ultimate question. Has God ordered you to do this? The moment he says yes, her response is just unshakable. She simply says, then he will not neglect us. And she stays, utterly alone in the desert. Section 2. The Spring of Zamzam. Now, faith in the desert very quickly collides with physical reality. Let's look at what happens when the water, inevitably, runs out. As you can imagine, Hajar's situation became desperate, fast. The water skin went completely dry. So in sheer panic, she frantically runs back and forth between 2 nearby hills, Safa and Marwa, 7 times. She's desperately scanning the horizon, hoping for a caravan, a straight traveler, literally anyone who could help. But on her final return to her crying infant, she witnesses a literal miracle. Water suddenly begins springing up directly from the earth, right beneath Ismail's tiny feet. This is the legendary spring of Zamzam, and what's absolutely amazing to think about is that when modern pilgrims perform the rite of Sa'i today, they are physically walking and running that exact same path to honor her monumental struggle. Water in a desert changes literally everything. Soon enough, birds started to circle the fresh spring, acting almost like a massive beacon in the sky. The passing Jurhum tribe spotted those birds, went to investigate, and found Hajar. They actually asked her for permission to settle there, and she agreed, but with one vital, non-negotiable condition. The water had to remain free for everyone. So they settled down, Ismail grew up among them, learning Arabic from them, and just like that, an empty, silent valley blossomed into a bustling settlement, a settlement that would eventually grow into the great city of Mecca. Section 3, Raising the Foundations. Now, what's really interesting about this next slide is how it transitions us from a gritty story of survival into a story of grand divine purpose. Years go by, and Ibrahim returns to a now-grown Ismail with a brand new command from God. God commands Ibrahim to build a house, purifying it specifically for pure monotheistic worship. The Quran gives us this beautiful description of how Ibrahim and Ismail physically raised the foundations together. I mean, picture it. There's no elaborate ceremony, no massive workforce of thousands. It's literally just a father and his son, working with their own bare hands, out in the desert heat, gathering heavy stones. And as they worked, they were constantly praying, "Our Lord, accept this from us." Islamic scholars actually note that this was likely a restoration of a sacred site dating all the way back to Adam, which they were now rededicating entirely to God. Naturally, as they built the walls higher and higher, Ibrahim eventually couldn't reach the top. So Ismail brings him this specific stone to stand on, using it almost like a makeshift scaffold. And guys, this isn't just some historical metaphor. This physical stone, known as Maqam Ibrahim, or the Station of Ibrahim, actually survives to this very day. It's explicitly mentioned in the Quran. Today, modern pilgrims are actually instructed to pray near this exact same stone, after every single time they finish circling the Kaaba. The physical, tangible connection to this ancient construction project is completely unbroken. Section 4, the Black Stone. Okay, so as the walls were nearing completion, they needed a way to mark the starting corner of the structure, basically the anchor point from which every single circuit of worship would begin. And this brings us to the incredibly famous Al-Hajar Al-Aswad, the Black Stone. So where did it actually come from? Well, according to an authentic hadith found in Sunan al-Tirmidhi, Prophet Muhammad explained that the stone actually descended directly from paradise. So it didn't even originate on earth. And when it arrived, it was said to be whiter than milk. But, and here's the fascinating part, the hadith explains that it was turned black over time by absorbing the sins of the children of Adam. It's quite literally a stone that bears the moral weight of human history. So the crucial point here is making sure we really understand the theology, because it's so easy for outsiders to misunderstand this. The stone is highly revered, yes, but it is absolutely 100% not worshipped. The second caliph, Umar ibn al-Khattab, made this incredibly clear for everyone when he stood right before it. He stated bluntly to the stone itself, "I know that you are a stone that neither benefits nor harms." He went on to say that the only reason he kissed it was because he saw the Prophet do it. So for Muslims, kissing or touching the stone is strictly about following the precise practice and example of the Prophet. It's pure emulation, definitely not idolatry. All right, let's fast forward several centuries. The Kaaba has unfortunately been heavily damaged by a devastating flood and desperately needs rebuilding. The local tribes of Quraysh, who sadly by this time had actually filled the sanctuary with idols, took on the massive rebuilding task. But things got really tense when it came time to place the secret black stone back into its corner. A fierce, super dangerous dispute broke out. I mean, every single clan wanted the ultimate honor of placing it. Bloodshed was literally imminent. Swords were about to be drawn. Finally, they agreed on a compromise. The very next man to walk through the sanctuary gate would be the one to decide the matter. So, who was it going to be? Section 5, the trusted caretaker. Well, the man who happened to walk through that gate was none other than a young Muhammad, years before his prophethood even officially began. And interestingly, he was already famous throughout Mecca by a very special title, Al-Amin, the trustworthy. And what he does next just brilliantly illustrates his profound wisdom, and really his deep, destined connection to this sacred site. To solve the crisis, he doesn't just play favorites or pick one clan over another. Instead, he takes off his own cloak and spreads it out on the ground. He places the black stone right in the center with his own hands, and then he asks a representative from every single fighting clan to grab an edge of the fabric, so they all lift the stone together as equals. Then Muhammad personally takes the stone from the cloak and carefully sets it into the corner of the Kaaba himself. So you see, long before he was ever a prophet, he was already acting as the trusted caretaker of Ibrahim's legacy. Section 6, a living legacy today. So why does all this matter right now? Well, because all of this ancient history we've been talking about isn't just some dusty tale read in a textbook. It is a living, breathing, physical reality for over 1 billion people today. Let's look at exactly how this history survives. Just consider the physical rites performed during Hajj and Umrah today. Circling the house, walking back and forth between Safa and Marwa, drinking from the Zamzam spring, and praying at the station of Ibrahim. Look at that list. None of these are just arbitrary symbolic rituals that someone invented centuries later. Every single one is a direct, physical reenactment of this exact chain of historical events we just went through. When pilgrims do these actions today, they are literally stepping directly into the ancient footprints of Ibrahim, Hajar, Ishmael, and Muhammad. It's a continuous, unbroken chain. Let's move to our final thought and see how this all builds into an incredibly powerful, lasting impact. Just think about this for a second. Two people built a house out of stone and obedience, entirely unaware that 1 billion people, thousands of years later, would still be walking toward it every single day. I mean, it is a truly profound testament to faith, isn't it? A father and son standing in an empty desert, asking only that their pure worship be accepted. And look what it became. So what kind of legacy are we building today that might outlast us by millennia? Something to think about. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep exploring, and I'll catch you in the next one.